And Julian, obviously there is a feeling there of victory, but political leaders are already warning that the war is not over.
Well, the situation we have here now on the political front is that effectively the Northern Alliance has taken power in Kabul. That is the reality of it. They did, of course, pledge that they would not enter the city with their armed forces, but from late afternoon onwards, I myself saw hundreds, possibly thousands of Northern Alliance soldiers entering the city in trucks. Some of them were going to engage the Taliban further south, but many of them will remain here. The result is there is now effectively a Northern Alliance government in power. That is not exactly what the Americans wanted, but they will have to deal with it. And the main point is that the Taliban really are on the ropes. The question now is whether they can survive as the strange religious political movement that they've been in the past.
Thank you very much for that, Julian.
Well, as Julian Mannion has just been saying, there are fears now that the Northern Alliance's control of Kabul leaves what's been called a power vacuum in Afghanistan. One of the military objectives may have now been reached, but the diplomatic mission still has a long way to go. Well, live now to Lauren Taylor, who's just been to a briefing in Downing Street. Lauren, what did you hear there? I mean, this isn't the end of it, is it?
No, that's right. The message here is it's not the end of the process by any means, that although a lot has been achieved, there is still an awful lot of work to be done. They do believe that the Taliban could not hold Kabul and that this was not just a tactical retreat, but they are still saying that they are a force to be reckoned with. So the message coming out of here this morning is that the military campaign has to go on and that those responsible for September the 11th do still need to be brought to account. What we're not being told at this stage is whether there's any suggestion that ground troops, coalition ground troops, might go into Kabul.
Is there any sense that things on the ground are moving too fast?
Well, interestingly, they did say that militarily things moved faster than they anticipated, but what they're not admitting at this stage is that this has caught them on the hop politically. What they do say is that there is now a renewed urgency in finding this broad-based successor to the Taliban regime, but what they're saying also at this stage is that, frankly, it's unrealistic to expect instant solutions on the political front, just as it was unrealistic when the military campaign started to expect immediate results on that front.
Lauren Taylor, thank you very much indeed.
Now the Northern Alliance, albeit with US and British help, has made significant gains in Afghanistan. The question for military planners is, what's the next move? The Taliban may have left Kabul, but they're retreating towards their southern strongholds, and defense analysts expect a much tougher battle to gain control there. Here's our defense correspondent, Kevin Dunn.
The speed of the Northern Alliance's advance and the abandonment by the Taliban of Kabul threatens to create a political vacuum in Afghanistan. The government has always said the Northern Alliance could not form a credible government on its own, a position government ministers have been repeating this morning.
The Northern Alliance have made very clear in everything that they've said that they realise they cannot run Afghanistan. They only represent a part of the country, that Afghanistan needs a broadly based government that represents the whole of the country, including the Pashtun South.
The opposition supports the government line, but is also cautioning that the West's objectives in the fight against terrorism have yet to be achieved.
The first objective was to remove the Taliban. The second objective was to make sure that there was a representative government in place, and that remains now the key objective. But we must not forget the fact that this all started with Osama bin Laden, and that the pursuit of Osama bin Laden and the pursuit of terrorists within Afghanistan remains the key objective, and that must be pursued.
However, the sight of Northern Alliance troops on the streets of Kabul is certain to alarm neighbouring Pakistan. The government of Islamabad was one of the Taliban regime's few friends before September the 11th, and it is now urging the United Nations to take over the administration of Afghanistan.
Pending the establishment of such a political dispensation, chosen by the Afghans themselves, Kabul should remain a demilitarized city under the control of a UN peacekeeping force or a multinational force authorized by the UN Security Council.
Whatever the future makeup of their government, the people of Kabul have been giving thanks that the era of the Taliban appears to be ending. Kevin Dunn, ITN.
And the Foreign Office Minister, Ben Bradshaw, who we saw in that report, joins us now from Westminster. Mr. Bradshaw, what has the reaction of the British government been to the fall of Kabul? I mean, there must be some concern about this power vacuum there now.
Some, but I think overwhelming happiness that we share with the people of Kabul that you've just seen in your film, who are celebrating their liberation from the Taliban. Clearly, we now need to redouble our efforts on the humanitarian side and on the political side to come to their help.
What is going to happen now in terms of these diplomatic efforts to try and fill this power vacuum?
Well, the Prime Minister is speaking to Kofi Annan today. Jack Straw is in New York. He'll be speaking to the UN Special Envoy in Afghanistan to try to move as quickly as possible to get a broad-based government acceptable to all the factions in Afghanistan and its neighbours, which will in itself encourage defections from the south and the Pashtun. That's what we need to happen now to get a government in Afghanistan so we can begin with the rebuilding of the country.
And when can we expect to hear any more news on the involvement of British ground troops?
Well, as we know, British ground troops have already been involved with the Northern Alliance. They would have been playing a role, no doubt, in the events of the last few hours, the dramatic events, and we'll be celebrating with the people of Kabul a great day for the people of Afghanistan, but we still have a great deal to do on the humanitarian and political side and on the military, because we have not broken the Al-Qaeda network totally yet, and we have not found Mr. bin Laden.
Ben Bradshaw, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Chris Bellamy is Professor of Military Science at Cranfield University. Professor, we heard from Ben Bradshaw. He's talking almost as if the war is won and over. Do you believe it is?
I think that's a bit premature. The gains that the Northern Alliance has made so far, rapid though they have all been in the area of the country which is populated by non-Pushtun ethnic groups. I think once the Northern Alliance move into Pushtun territory, and that's the ethnic group which provides the backing for the Taliban, I think it could get a lot more difficult. I think Mazar-e-Sharif was a tactical withdrawal by the Taliban. Kabul, I'm not so sure, but I think it gets a lot tougher from now on.
They're based in the south, the Taliban, so you believe they will make their strongholds in the south and then the war could move into the south of the country?
Well, I think with winter about to come in, I think we could end up with over the winter of the country being effectively split into two, with the Northern Alliance having rapidly seized control of the north, but the Taliban very strong in the south. But I also think that the Taliban is very much a small town, rural movement, and even if the Northern Alliance controls all the cities and all the roads, the Taliban may well still control large tracts of the countryside.
Do you think America and Britain, the allies, have lost control of the Northern Alliance?
I think they have, but they shouldn't have done, because after all, the strategy right from the beginning appears to have been to use the Northern Alliance to fight on the ground and support them with air power, primarily American air power. As a result of this, after 5 weeks, suddenly the Americans got everything they wanted. So why have they been taken by surprise by the fall of Kabul? They should have had the political machinery in place.
Thank you, Chris Bellamy.
We're taking a break now, but there's much more to come on the Lunchtime News. We'll be talking to a journalist who's met Osama bin Laden about his likely reaction to the fall of Kabul and, of course, all the latest developments from our journalists in the capital there. And in other news, the New York air crash, it does look like an accident.
And Sarah Payne's family see a man go on trial for her murder.
We'll be back in a couple of minutes.